Last night's Thursday night football game, the Jags took a 2-by-4 to the Tennessee Titans and just whipped their ass all over the field. 9 sacks. That now means that Marcus Mariota, through 3 weeks, has been sacked 17 times. According to NFL research, that's the most times a quarterback has been sacked in the first 3 games of the season. Since 2002, 17 years of teams have not been this bad, and it was a physical mismatch at the line of scrimmage. You can point to a lot of different issues in this game. Titans typically did what they do, gave away points, played like crap. But ultimately, this came down to the Jaguars' defensive line, Calais Campbell playing like the greatest defensive lineman in the history of the NFL. And while you can criticize Marcus Mariota as much as you want, and I'm sure he bears the blame for some of the sacks, 9 sacks is just flat out inexcusable. The Jaguars came into this game with their best player, maybe in the history of the franchise, having demanded a trade on a short week, not sure if he was going to play. They're starting a 6th-round quarterback, a rookie in Gardner Minshew, because Nick Foles got hurt in quarter one of the beginning of the season. They're coming off a really tough late defeat against the Houston Texans on the road, and they dominated and kicked the Titans' ass up and down the field. And from a Titans perspective, in addition to the fact that you couldn't protect Marcus Mariota, I don't know what else you can say except this team is a failure. Decision by Andrew Luck to retire opens up the AFC South in a massive way. The Titans get insanely fortunate in their first 2 division games. Instead of going up against Andrew Luck and the Colts, who have beaten them 11 straight times, they get to go against Jacoby Brissett and the Colts. What do? Choke away a fourth-quarter lead and lose. Then, a few days later, they get to go down to Jacksonville, and they get fortunate to play on the road. Instead of against Nick Foles, a $22 million a year quarterback, they get to play against a 6th-round draft pick in Gardner Minshew, who's never won an NFL game before. And what do? They get whipped. So I don't know what you can say. I know bad football teams. Unfortunately, I've had to watch a lot of them. Despite the fact that the Titans won week 1 against the Browns, this is a 4-12 football team. I'm here to tell you. It's a 4-12 football team, and the Titans are going to have to look back at the end of the season and say what went wrong. I think they lose to the Falcons on next Sunday. If you look at their schedule going forward, I don't think there's any doubt that things are going to get worse before they get better, and I don't even know that they're going to get better at all. But if you look at this Titans schedule, I think there's a good chance the Titans are sitting at 1-6 after their first 7 games, and effectively the season's over. And then the question becomes, what in the world are you doing with the GM? What are you doing with the head coach? And why is Marcus Mariota in year 5 taking more sacks than has ever happened in the last 17 years of NFL football? He dropped back to pass 40 times, and he either got sacked or hit on 18 of those pass attempts. That's unbelievable. Almost a 50% hit or sack rate on your quarterback when he drops back to pass. And then the special teams are so incompetent. Adoree Jackson can't handle a simple punt and gives away 7 points to start this game. Mike Vrabel makes a really questionable decision on 4th and 6 to go for it down 14-0. Again, this is systematic. It's symptomatic. There are large issues associated with everything with the Titans right now. They went out and tried to make moves on the offensive side of the ball, and they've all blown up in a disastrous way. And ultimately, the offensive line is pure trash. I don't have a good solution for the Titans, but this is a year, if any, that you should be able to compete in the AFC South, and now they've started 0-2 in the division, and I think in the next couple of weeks they'll be officially done, and you can ring them up and count them out. So that is where the Titans are right now. I'm not sure what's going to happen with the Jags. I think if you watched the game last night, they showed Nick Foles quite a bit on the sideline, and it was almost as if his expression realized that he was going to get Nick Foles himself, that Gardner Minshew may come in and end up taking his job away. And if Minshew keeps playing like he is right now, and through 3 weeks, He's posted the best rookie passer rating in the history of the NFL. And effectively, he basically played the entirety of week 1 against the Chiefs. If he keeps playing like this, I don't know how you bench him to replace him with Nick Foles, other than the fact that you gave Nick Foles $22 million and feel obligated to pay the guy that you paid to play the guy that you paid a lot of money to. Leonard Fournette seems like he's totally done. I know he had the one run, but everybody's going to stack the line and try to stop him and see whether or not Gardner Minshew can beat you. And last night he beat the Titans and he got his first ever win in the NFL. So if you are a Colts fan, I think even with the dumpster fire that is your relationship with Jalen Ramsey, you have to be pretty confident with how this thing went. You played very competently in a game against the Houston Texans that you could have won, and you took a 2-4 to the Tennessee Titans and really whipped them in the game that we saw last night. So I think the Titans are dead and buried. I think you can go ahead and toss some dirt on their grave. I think they're done as a contender in the AFC South. I think the Jags, look, I mean, you're sitting at 1-2. You feel like you have some hope. We'll see what happens with the Houston Texans going on the road against the Chargers and the Atlanta Falcons playing against the Indianapolis Colts. But I think the AFC South is not a good division. It doesn't have very many good quarterbacks. And last night, Mariota, frankly, looked like the worst of the 4 quarterbacks in the AFC South, which is saying something because 2 of them are backups. So that was my takeaway in general of everything that we saw happen last night. I tweeted out, don't want to overreact, but I think the owner should be fired. I think the GM should be fired for the Titans. I think the coaching staff should be wiped out. Whatever plan you have in place, it has blown up in your faces when you are the Titans and you lose in this situation like they did to the Colts and to the Jags in back-to-back weeks playing against Jacoby Brissett and Gardner Minshew. If you can't beat those 2 guys, you have no hope of contending to ever win your division. So whatever game plan you've put in place is a disaster. It's time to go back and re-examine it. But let me bring in the crew. Danny G, what did I miss? What else did you see last night in Thursday Night Football?
Man, well, good thing your emotions aren't running over. I just think, Clay, I mean, I know you're really frustrated, and we heard Alex Marvez last hour trying to talk you off the ledge a little bit. Look, because of the division your favorite team is in, there's still a little bit of hope because you arguably have the best backup quarterback in the NFL. In fact, last night during the game, I tweeted that I never thought I'd be wanting a team to put Tannehill into a game.
Well, Mike Vrabel said after the game that they were in no way close to going to Tannehill. Do
you believe him?
Yeah, I do.
Is he blaming the O-line then?
Effectively, yes. I think he is. I mean, I think if you get sacked 9 times, again, I'm not going back through and like Xing and O'ing everything and assigning percentage blame and everything else. But if you have 17 sacks for a 5th-year quarterback through 3 weeks, I don't know what you can say negative about Mariota. I mean, the amazing thing to me about the Mariota situation, being sacked 17 times, is he still hasn't turned the ball over. Now, he's fumbled a couple of times and recovered his own fumble this season, but he hasn't thrown any interceptions, and really, he hasn't thrown that many balls that were close to being intercepted. I mean, the guy's dropping back to pass expecting to get drilled on every single play. His offensive line can't block for him at all. And by the way, the Titans are sitting at 1-2. They're going to lose to the Falcons on Sunday. I mean, I would put almost every dollar that I have on that happening. The Bills, they might be able to beat. They'll find a way to lose to the Broncos, Chargers. I mean, like this is a bad football team. I know bad football teams, trust me. Unfortunately, I've had to watch way too many of them in the last 20 years of being a football fan. This is a bad football team. And what's frustrating, I think, is this is almost a dead ringer replica of last year. The Baltimore Ravens came into Nashville and sacked Marcus Mariota 10 times and beat the Titans 21-0. This game was almost a dead ringer for that one in terms of how bad the Titans were. And it's like nothing changes. Everything just remains the same over and over and over again. And at some point, you just get fed up with the same reactions. And it's also a function of how wide open the AFC South is. I would just say, if you can't beat Jacoby Brissett and Gardner Minshew when they're replacing Andrew Luck and Nick Foles, whatever game plan you have is fundamentally broken at its inception. You need to go back and burn down the village because you have no hope.
Wow.
It's the truth. I mean, look,
Are you sure this time? Because last season, when he didn't, I'm talking Mariota, when he didn't, because of an injury, did not suit up for the playoff game. You came on the air the next Monday morning and said, that's it. I'm done with him. I retire on Mariota. He's garbage. He should have played no matter what injury, because we thought he was going to play. We thought he was going to go, remember?
Yeah, because he was playing for a chance to go to win to go to the playoffs.
And he had practiced.
Yeah.
So we thought he was going to play, and he didn't. And at that point, you were done with him.
Yeah, but so I think focusing at this point on Mariota is too easy.
Yeah, your defense, they need some they were suspect last night because the Jags don't have a great O-line either. And
they couldn't get any pressure on them. Look,
none.
Again, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's easy. People like to go and say, oh, just put the backup quarterback in. But it's not like Tannehill is going to not stand back there and get decked. It's also not like Tannehill hasn't proven to be incredibly brittle himself. So, again, to me, it's easy when you just point to something and say, oh, my team lost. Oh, let's go replace the quarterback. That's what's frustrating about this is I think it's systemic and structural rot. It's like the house doesn't need a new roof. The entire thing is infested with termites, right? So if you could just go replace the roof on a house, you're like, okay, everything else is great with the house. Oh, the water heater's out. Let's go replace the water heater. Oh, the air conditioning's not working. Well, we can get the air conditioning fixed. This is like your entire house is riddled with termites. And when you lean against the wall, the whole thing might collapse down around you. That's what the Titans are right now. And so that's what I'm saying. I think there is structural flaw in the way that this team was designed, and I think it's a brutal, stone-cold reality that you have to look in the mirror and say, what game plan have we designed such that when Andrew Luck retires and we get an amazing gift of Jacoby Brissett is now the quarterback of the Indianapolis Colts, and when Nick Foles gets knocked out of quarter one, week one, such that you get Gardner Minshew, who's never won a football game before as a quarterback in the NFL, as the two quarterbacks that you have to beat, and not even beat both of them, just split in order to be in the mix to win your division, and you get beaten by both, you have to look in the mirror and say, how many different decisions have we made that have led us to this point where we are so structurally unsound that this is the result? And look, I'm not a failure, right? Like, I win in life. But part of being a winner is looking at yourself and accepting the things that you do poorly. Let me say, for example, if what is the equivalent of what I do giving up the most sacks in 17 years of NFL football on the offensive line, right? I always like to make that analogy. If you came to me and said, Clay Travis, you just did something so bad on Fox Sports Radio that no one in radio has done it in 17 years. And if I said, well, I just got to work a little bit harder to get better. No. If you are the worst in 17 years at something, it's a structural failing. It's not like, oh, I need to hit the commercial breaks better on time. It's not like I need to have a better guest in hour 3. It's not like I need to be a little bit better on my opening. It is that the entire show is rotten to its core. If you are doing something that is so bad in terms of protecting your quarterback that every other NFL team has managed to do it better than you for the last 17 years, then it's not one thing that needs to be fixed. Your structure is unsound. It's riddled with termites, and you got to look yourself in the mirror and figure out why that's the case. And to me, it's the plan. Whatever game plan you have implemented is an unmitigated, disastrous failure.
It would be like if you talked lacrosse for 17 minutes and dropped 3 F-bombs during the 17 minutes.
But even if I did that, we'd be able to look at it and be like, oh, that was just one segment. That was wrong. I guess maybe instead of, this is like us getting the monthlies for September, and I have 17-year lows in radio, national radio across the country. That's what giving up all these sacks is like. And the structural failure of it, like, for instance, there are reasons you can point to why teams stink, right? Like, let's use the Dolphins, for example. The Dolphins stink because they are trying to stink. You can agree or disagree with their plan, but it seems clear to me that the Dolphin plan is we are going to have the overall number 1 pick in the NFL draft, and we're going to go get Tua Tagovailoa. We believe that he is so good at quarterback that it's worth stinking this year, adding a bunch of draft picks, going to get him at quarterback, and we're going to be good for the next 10 to 12 years because that's how much we believe in him. You may not agree with that decision, but that is the Dolphin plan. There is a method to their madness. The Jets stink right now. They are awful. But if you look at it structurally, you can say, well, our starting quarterback, who we think is going to be really good, got mono. That sucks. Man, we can't really control that our young quarterback got the kissing disease. And then our backup got his ankle blown up, and he's out now, and we're on our third-string quarterback. We're going to have to take the lumps because of the awfulness that has befallen us from a luck perspective. The overall structure of their game plan may or may not be in question. To me, your number one goal when you are in an NFL team is to win your division, because you can't really control a lot of other things. But if you win your division, you host a home playoff game. So the Titans and every other NFL team out there has to devise a game plan predicated on winning their division. I don't know if you are looking at these results. You can't beat Jacoby Brissett. Nothing against Jacoby Brissett, but he is a pale approximation of the talent that Andrew Luck brings to bear. Every single Colts fan out there who was booing when Andrew Luck retired was doing it because they knew how good Andrew Luck was. The Colts are a prohibitive favorite to win the division, and then their quarterback decides to retire. That's a huge benefit to the Texans, to the Jags, and to the Titans. Then, the $22 million quarterback that the Jags have brought in to lead them back to respectability to replace Blake Bortles gets knocked out in quarter one, week one. And they have to go with a 6th-round draft pick who is never won an NFL game in his career. And so the Titans are sitting there saying, if we beat Jacoby Brissett and we beat Gardner Minshew, we've got a tremendous lead in this division. And even if we don't beat both of them, if we just beat one of the two of them, we're in pretty good shape after 3 weeks in this division. And what do? They lose to both. That's a structural failure. They give up the most sacks in 17 years. No matter what you do for a living, if you're so bad at what you do that you've done something that has never happened in your field of work in 17 years, despite the fact that a lot of other people are doing it too, you have failed. You need to stare into the mirror and figure out why structurally what you're doing is unsound and broken. And I'm willing to do that. I self-assess all the time. And if you do a good job of that, you win. You address your flaws. You try to get better. I do this all the time in my career. And if you're making bad decisions, you go back to the drawing board and you adjust what you're doing. The Titan game plan is structurally broken. I can't think of a single positive thing that came out of last night's game. Not one. Not one positive. And so, to me, you go right to the top. People want to focus on the quarterback, but again, that's an easy, lazy answer. Oh, just replace the quarterback. That's not the answer. The answer is your game plan is structurally unsound. Your house is riddled with termites. You don't need a new water heater. You need to burn the entire house down and start over. And I think that's where the Titans are. And it sucks, but they went 9-7, 9-7, 9-7, and I think they're going to go 4-12 this year. And they're going to recognize that everything that they thought they were built upon was quicksand, and they have built a crap foundation and a crap team. That's what I think the takeaway is. Now, I don't think the Jags are in great place. They won the game, but the best player in the history of their franchise is asking for a trade. I could add more wrinkles, by the way, on why this is such a bad loss for the Titans. I think it's a worse loss for the Titans. You ask that a lot of times after games happen. It's a good win or a bad loss. I think it's a really bad loss for the Titans. Jags are still not, in my opinion, very good. And their best player in franchise history is being traded. There's clear dissension in that locker room. Everything for the Jags since really the fourth quarter of the AFC Championship game has gone off the rails. It's been a slow-moving disaster. But to me, the much more disastrous outcome last night was on the Titans side. That's a game you have to win. And at a minimum, you have to split in your division against Jacoby Brissett and Gardner Minshew, with your fifth-year, $20 million plus quarterback in Marcus Mariota. And instead, you go out and you give up 9 sacks. And as a result, your quarterback has now been sacked more times in 3 weeks than has happened in 17 years in the NFL. It's pathetic. All right, when we come back, I'm fired up. I hate failure, and I hate stupidity, and I hate when stupid people put together a plan that leads to failure, and they can't figure out how to adjust it. And I think that's where the Titans are right now.